Thank you again for joining us. The Hailey Public Library is delighted to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with a series we're calling Cultura. It's a series of presentations by community leaders who will share their personal stories, images, and conversations about their home country. And the idea behind it is really to create a conversation between our community here and the home communities of many of the people who live in our valley. So tonight, our guest presenter is Dirce Flores. Dirce was born in the state of Oaxaca, Mexico, in a small town about 30 minutes from the capital, an area rich in historical importance. She has lived in our valley for about 16, 17 years and is a professional property manager in 2010. So please join me in welcoming Dirce Flores.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. As Kristen mentioned, my name is Dirce Flores, and I am from Oaxaca, Mexico, but I live here in the Wood River Valley since 2007. It is a pleasure for me to be here tonight and talk about my home state, my hometown, and my personal life story. So thank you again. Oaxaca, it is one of the 32 federal entities of the Mexican United States. And the word Oaxaca comes from the classical Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs. And the original word was Oaxaca. And that refers to a tree of Oaxes, which is that tree. And when the Aztecs sent expeditions to conquest that territory in around 1220 of our common era, they noticed that tree was all around the central valleys. And they call Oaxaca referring to that tree, and it means at the tip of the tree of Oaxes. Those Oaxes are seed pods, long seed pods, and those can be eaten by itself or in moles and salsas since pre-Hispanic times. And that seed has a very particular flavor that I never had the experience of trying it again. It's very unique flavor, a little bitter, but it's very, I don't know, it's explosive flavor, I will call it. Oaxaca, it is a large state, number 5 in territorial extension, and it is bordered by the let me see if I find that. It is bordered by the states, well, I will point it here. It is bordered by the states of Guerrero, here, Chiapas over here, Puebla up here, and Veracruz. And also has a line coast with the Pacific Ocean. Oaxaca is also a state that it's divided in 8 regions. And in those 8 regions, there are Costa, Istmo, Central Valleys, Mixteca, Cañada, Papaloapan, Sierra Norte, and Sierra Sur. In these regions, we have a total of 570 municipalities. That's the state with the majority number of municipalities in the whole country. In those 570 municipalities, 418 of those use a government system that it's called customs and uses and customs. And what it means, each of these municipalities have the authority or the autonomy of creating their own rules and local laws. And what that helped Oaxaca, to preserve their indigenous culture and traditions over time more than in other areas of Mexico. In those 570 municipalities, we have 16 ethnic groups. Also, Oaxaca is one of the most states with ethnic groups in the country. Those ethnic groups, I have those in my notes because it's hard to remember those and translate them. Actually, I'm trying to translate them, but it's not, real possible. Afro-Mexicans, Amuzgos, Chatinos, Chinantecs, Chocholtecos, Chontales of Oaxaca, Uaves, Ixcatecs, Mazatecs, Mestizos, Mixes, Mixtecos, Nahuas, Tacuates, Triquis, Tzotziles, Zapotecs, and Soques. When the Spanish troops arrived to Oaxaca soon after the conquest of Tenochtitlan around 1521 of our Common Era, they noticed that Oaxaca was a very special place. A lot of pre-Hispanic ceremonial centers were there. And they were seeking for gold and spices because the Aztecs conquered that territory prior to that. And so when they were asking where all these spices and gold is coming from, they said Oaxaca. So they moved right to Oaxaca and start seeking for that, right? So they really found that was very special. They started calling it Oaxaca, because back then the Spanish didn't pronounce the X as like they pronounce as sh. So they call it Oaxaca, but on colonial times, it went to Oaxaca, and that's the name that we know it these days. And Oaxaca, it's also the name of the state, but also the capital of the state, which is Oaxaca City. One negative aspect of the system that I was mentioning, that it's called uses and customs, it is that for many decades, those rural communities were forgotten by the federal government, and they didn't send enough funds and they didn't send enough money to those communities. So a lot of those communities have a lot of people in poverty situation. So a lot of these people had to migrate to bigger cities or out of the country. In those regions that we have, I'm going to start to giving you a briefly explanation of each of those regions. And I will start with the Costa region, and that is this area here, right? And in here we have beautiful beaches, tropical weather, warm waters. The beaches there are not as popular as Cancun or Baja, but still very beautiful. Rustic environment in here. We find Afro-Mexicans. We have also, mestizos and Zapotecs in this area. Most of the popular beaches here are Huatulco, Puerto Escondido, Puerto Angel, Zipolite, and Mazunte. And we also have some very popular lagoons, and they're very unique because that's a system of lagoons that it is connected to each other. And like with natural channels. It has 3 main lagoons, and around that area here, and it has 3 main lagoons and smaller ones around them. This is totally a surfer's destination over here. Then I'll move to the Istmo, and this area is very special, colorful. It is a region where it's used a system of matriarchat, which means the women have equal rights to men. That's the only region in Oaxaca where that happens. The rest of the regions live in the patriarchat, which is, what the men are above women. In the Istmo is home of Tehuanas, and 2 very popular songs that you might hear, and especially one become very popular after the movie Coco of Disney. So one of them is La Llorona, and the another one is La Sandunga. And those songs are, we call it sones, which are like, traditional songs. And I'm going to, I'll explain that later with other picture. But also Frida Kahlo, that a Mexican artist, she wore the Tehuana outfit for, around the world, because her mother born in that region in here, and she was very proud of that. So when she went to Europe and she went everywhere she went, she was wearing that beautiful dress that you might see before it is. And I will explain that to you later. I don't want to go that far away and back. But I will explain that to you. And so also in the 1930s, a Mexican president printed a bill with the face of a Tehuana. So that also was like, all around the world, and that became very popular as well. In this region, the economic activities, it's mainly related to the oil industry, because we have a refinery here, and that it's like the national oils. And so a lot of people here live, working on that industry, and also agricultural activities. We have here we have rainforests here, and in this area here that extends to Veracruz, it's home of around 300 native orchids. So rainforest, hot, humid climate is very, very special. Then if we move to the Sierra Sur, those are like mountains. And Sierra Sur and Sierra Norte are regions where you find the mountains, cooler temperatures, still forest, and here it's more humid and I will call it more rainforest than in here, but still you find rainforest here, but it's just more here just because it's close to those two regions. In here we have all these villages where they have cabins, and these days it's possible to do ecotourism, which is mountain biking, hiking, camping, all of that. But the locals do the forestry activities, agricultural activities, and of course crafting of these embroidery, textile embroideries in here. This area here was the region where the Spanish troops got latest, because our high mountains and the people here was very defending their territory. So they were the last region to be conquered in Oaxaca. The Central Valleys, there is where my hometown is located, around that valley. But the Central Valleys are surrounded by the mountains of the Sierras. And in here we find a lot of ceremonial centers, pre-Hispanic ceremonial centers. Montalban and Mitla are around here. These days, people there, if you visit, they have a lot of shops where they craft again, textiles, all these beautiful Zapotec rugs that a lot of people in the area have in their homes. They come from there. They weave them there. And also here we have people making artisanal bread and tortillas, and I'm going to just come over here and show you. This is a tortilla that came from Oaxaca. My parents-in-law are visiting us, and they brought me tortillas, and it was perfect timing for my presentation. So I brought one. Those are the homemade tortillas that the Oaxacans eat. I mean, they're really big, but they're so tasty too. And that is made from the native Mexican corn. And I don't know if you ever hear about a artist. His name was Francisco Toledo. He's from Oaxaca. He's a Zapotec painter, and he passed 3 years ago, I think. But when he was alive, he defended the native species of corn. He did not want any species of corn to come to Mexico, especially to Oaxaca. We have several species of corn: red, white, yellow, blue, multicolor. I mean, it is amazing how many species of corn we have in Mexico, and the taste is very different from the corn we taste here. We also have this region here, Mixteca. In here, we find hot and dry climate. a lot of this extension, it is desert. And that used to be a forest. But in the early 1900s, they were suffering from serious drought, and also they introduced herds of goats, and they ate all the vegetation. So that became a desert. In the early 2000s, they noticed, and finally the federal government looked at that, and they were like, oh, wow, look, what is happening here? It's like a desert. And all these rural towns were suffering from poverty. They didn't have anything to grow because the climate was so hot. I mean, it was a big problem. So in the early 2000s, they introduced native species of pine trees, and they started collecting, rainwater and reforest. And these days it's looking better, but still we're not at the point that it might be like the healthiest, level, but it is way better. In this area here, that it's bordered with the state of Puebla over up here. In that area, it's like this desertic extension where we have around 81 native species of cactus. So that these days it's protected by UNESCO because they want those species to stay there. A lot of people were like, going in there and take them out to sell them in the black market, but these days all of these are protected, which is very important because, the native species should stay in their natural habitat. We have now the Cañada. This is the smallest region in Oaxaca, and in there we have in here, if we go, I will divide it in half. If we go from here, sorry, technical difficulties. Here, it's hot and dry, and here it's hot and humid, again, because we're close to that region that it's also forest. So in here, and so the vegetation there, it's very exuberant, and in here they grow a lot of fruits and native species of fruits and vegetables. And also here, it's the home of Maria Sabina, which you might hear of her also. She was a Mazatec shaman that did all these practices of healing with mushrooms. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of celebrities, the band The Beatles went to visit her to participate on these mushroom rituals. So she became very, very popular, but even with that popularity, she died in poverty. Then we have Papaloapan here, and we have rainforest in this area and forest here. This region is the most industrialized region in Oaxaca, and that is because its proximity with the state of Veracruz here. Veracruz has the Gulf of Mexico, and it has one of the biggest ports in Mexico. So international commerce comes in and out from there, and the proximity here makes this region very industrialized. But with that, some problems come, right? So this region has a very, very large river. It's called Papaloapan River, like the region, and it's suffering these days with serious pollution. And also the livestock was introduced here, and they are eating all the vegetation. So hopefully they start planning something differently these days, because otherwise they will suffer with the same situation that happened in the Mixteca a few decades ago. In here we have pineapple. It's one of the things they plant there. So a lot of pineapple that we eat here comes from this region. Okay, so after I explained to you all of these, regions of Oaxaca, I have to say, with all these 16 ethnic groups, it used to be mainly Zapotecs, mainly Mazatecs, mainly, Chocholtecas. These days, all of these ethnic groups live in different regions. Because for the ethnic groups of Oaxaca, none of these groups are above or below another one. They are all equal the same, and they should, live in community. So you find different ethnic groups in all of these regions. I'm going. That is a view of the central valleys that I had before. That is the temple, or it's a church that was built in the 17th century by the Catholic orders that went to Oaxaca, and this is one of the most beautiful places to visit when you are in Oaxaca City. Okay. Now, after I explain all that, the mountains of Oaxaca, those are mountains of the Sierra Norte. And in here we have the beaches that I was explaining, the lagoons. And also we have this place that it's called Yerbelagua. Yerbelagua, it is a place of petrified cascades or falls that were used by the pre-Hispanic people as a system of irrigation. They built all of these different terraces to have water supply for the central valleys in pre-Hispanic times. So beaches here also, Huatulco and Puerto Escondido. And I was talking about the biodiversity of Oaxaca, and you can find, the climates in the central valleys. The climate it's more hot and dry, and some of those other areas are very humid and warm, and a lot of rainforest, as I explained before. Now I'm going to introduce a new word to you, and that is the word Guelaguetza. The word Guelaguetza, it's a Zapotec word, and what it means, it is share, or the action of sharing. So for the ethnic groups of Oaxaca, share or sharing was very important. Communities till these days have, reunions, and everybody brings something, a potluck, right? They bring food, and they bring goods, and they bring whatever they have to the reunion of in town, in the center of town, and share with each other. So for the Oaxacan ethnic groups, sharing, it's very important. So that word Guelaguetza, it's the meaning of share or sharing. So this Guelaguetza, it comes from pre-Hispanic times, but it took the form that we know these days in 1932. What it is these days, it is a celebration of the cultural and ethnic richness of Oaxaca. What happens, each of these regions that I showed you before sent a group of dancers, musicians, social activists to Oaxaca City to participate in the festivities of the Guelaguetza in one way or another. But what Guelaguetza it is a performance, a show in an auditorium that we call it Auditorium Guelaguetza, or 14, and they perform in that auditorium there. So, for example, the region of the Istmo, or Papaloapan, or Mixteca, or the Sierras, they send a group of like more than 50 or 70 dancers and musicians, 100 sometimes, and they prepare a performance through the year, and they dance and play live music. And they also bring food and goods from their regions and share that with the other regions, but also with the audience. So after each performance, they start like throwing, bags of coffee, or like small bags of tortillas, or small fruits to the audience. And it's very colorful, it is bright, it is fun. But also, not just that performance, in the center of downtown, all these dancers, like the night before Guelaguetza, the show, the main show, they have parades through Oaxaca City. So if you are in a restaurant and you are like by the street they're passing by, you're just like doing that, and you see all these dancers and musicians walking by with their colorful outfits. For example, this one over here, it is a China Oaxaqueña, which is a woman dressed with carrying on their head a canasta, we call it. It's a basket with flowers, and they make different shapes, and they're like, dancing around downtown, and the same with each of the regions. It is very colorful. And here we have dancers from Teotitlán del Valle, and they're dancing El Jarabe del Valle. And in here we have dancers from the Mixtec, and here we have Tehuanas. That is a beautiful dress that I was talking about before. And those are from the Istmos. And we have here again a China Oaxaqueña, which is this lady carrying on that huge canasta, with different shapes, and those are fresh flowers. Then we have galleries, restaurants, museums around downtown Oaxaca have festivities related to the Guelaguetza. So like you find so many events in Oaxaca City related to that. And it's so fun and colorful to be here, and you hear the musicians playing over there, but also if you go to a museum, you see all these great events they have in Oaxaca City related to the Guelaguetza. Okay, I'm going to play that video that will explain to you a little bit more of what happens in La Guelaguetza in Oaxaca. You want me to go back?
Let's see.
Estamos orgullosos de nuestro legado y listos para compartir con el mundo la gran fiesta de Oaxaca.
Con sones y jarabes, con danzas y rituales.
Desde las costas oaxaqueñas hasta lo alto del Zempoaltépetl.
Entre las nubes mazatecas a lo profundo de la Mixteca.
Nos hermana una misma historia.
Ven a celebrar la grandeza de nuestras raíces. Nuestras 16 etnias y los pueblos afromexicanos reunidos por primera vez.
Ven a vivir la máxima fiesta de Oaxaca este 17 y 24 de julio. Guelaguetza 2023. Estamos juntos de nuevo.
Right? Well, if you're there, it's even more. We have, all these, like I said, all these celebrations related to the Guelaguetza, and that happens 2 Mondays in the month of July each year. And so many, like thousands of people from outside the country come to see the Guelaguetza. But also, each of these towns have their own Guelaguetzas. So if you go to the city, you see the Guelaguetza, but also if you go to my hometown, if you go to the neighboring town, each of them have their own Guelaguetzas. They perform all the regions, they play music. I mean, it's just all about the Guelaguetza and all about the ethnic groups celebrating. Guelaguetza is the biggest folkloric celebration in Latin America. So it is that big. I don't know how to go back from there. It is not responding. Okay, perfect. Some important places to visit in Oaxaca City are the Templo of Santo Domingo, which I was talking about, the cathedral, the Zócalo, the touristic Andador, Teotitlán del Valle, which you find all these beautiful wool rugs. Then 2 ceremonial centers very important, Montalban and Mitla. they're the biggest. They have really big pyramids and a lot of history there. But also, I would like to focus tonight in another ceremonial center that it's called Huihaso. And Huihaso, it's again a Zapotec word. And what it means is a warrior watchtower. That town was located in the top of a hill. From there you can see all the valleys around. When the Spanish came to Oaxaca, they noticed that town was very important because it was the encounter of Mixtecs and Zapotecs, which are the most dominant ethnic groups before, during, and after the conquest. So they noticed that they had all these, they had this town that was very important, and that is Huihaso. Over here, we have, a set of 8 pyramids. Not all the site is explored, and that is where my hometown is located. The name Huihaso was changed after the conquest to San Pablo Huitzo, in which what they did is they chose the name of the Saint Paul Apostle, and they put it San Pablo Huitzo, which means it's San Paul, and then Huitzo, which was referring to Huihaso. And this town has, at the top of that Bell Hill, has the complex, the ceremonial, pre-Hispanic ceremonial center, and that has, 8 pyramids. It's thought that it's a necropolis because there's a tomb underneath each of the buildings. This tomb here, it's number 5 of Huihaso, and that was discovered in 1985 by the archaeologist Enrique Mendez, and it is showed that was, done on contemporary times of the Montalban centers, which are one of the biggest funerary elements of Oaxaca. I actually had the opportunity to get into that tomb in the early 90s, I think I was around 6-7 years old because they still had some excavations going on here, and the guards let the town people to come and visit the site once a week. So I actually was able to, come in here a few times. But then in the late 90s, early 2000s, they didn't have enough funds to keep with the excavation. The federal government didn't send enough funds, and they closed it. They also didn't have enough guards to guard the site, and they decided to close it to public, just to avoid the destruction of it. But it was very impressive and very amazing coming down the stairs and seeing that big stone head of Cosijo, which is the Zapotec god of the rain. I remember all these walls with the paintings and seeing all these red and orange and blue colors in those walls. It's very, very amazing. Because the Spanish noticed how important that town was located and how important that was because it was an encounter of Zapotecs and Mixtecs. They moved Catholic orders right away and start building a cross on top of the main pyramid as a sign of a conquest. And they also built a big church in the center of downtown in the 16th century. And they also built a second building to it, which was a complex, and they used it as a monastery for the monks. That town had, because the importance of pre-Hispanic times also was important on Revolution times, and they built a train station there. Also, a big river passes by, and that helped the locals with the water supply for agricultural purposes. And also, when they built the first federal highway, it passes through the town. Then in the 90s, they built a freeway and also passes in, at the other end of the town. So being located 30 to 40 minutes, from the city, it was very accessible, getting products in and out, the agricultural activities. I mean, it was very nice to have that convenience, right? So, you go to the city in one day and come back. From many other towns, they have to go over and stay overnight and come back. For us, it's just like, coming back, the same day. So a lot of people went to the city and sell their products, their corn, their beans, whatever they were planting, and at harvest time, they went to the city or to the villa of Etla and sell those products there. And also, because we had the train station in the early 900s, it was very accessible to go to Mexico City and get all these products from Oaxaca or from the town to Mexico City and back. Okay, now I gave you all that perspective. I want to say that growing up in a town with very strong culture and traditions was very special. When I was little, my mother had a cafe in the center of downtown and selling pastries and coffee in the center of downtown, although she was a very busy businesswoman, but also she found the time to encourage us to spend time at Casa de la Cultura, which it was the cultural center there. And there we learned about arts and crafts. My mother told me when I was 3 years old, I started to dance, and when I was 5, I asked to do more dancing. So I joined the local children's dance group, and I loved it there. The teachers, the music, the steps, but for me the most important part, it was the performing. The applause of the audience made my heart melt. My sister and I joined that group that practiced 2 times a week and performed over the weekends. And thanks to that, I had the opportunity of visiting many of these Oaxacan towns and live their traditions and understand them. Eventually, I was scouted by a television show to be part of the cast. And it was thrilling to be part of the television show that honors our culture, our traditions, but also brings education to other kids. It was amazing. Plus, I have to say that I really enjoyed to be famous. Kids at school will ask me, oh, how is to be in a television show? And other kids will recognize me on the streets and wave and smile at me. Eventually, the travel schedule was too much for my single mom running a business, so I retired from the TV show. But I set up my sights on going to an arts high school. I was very established in Mexican folk dancing that I started teaching classes in a neighboring town. And in my last year of high school, I decided that I wanted to study contemporary dance in college. And I was preparing for months, and I was ready. I went to Mexico City to stay with my aunt for the audition. It was a 5-step process as part of the 5-step audition or process as part of the admission. At stage 3, the screening teacher told me that my body shape was wrong for contemporary dance. He said, your legs are too short. You need to have longer legs for contemporary dance. And my heart sunk. My dreams were crushed. I couldn't believe that something that I worked so hard to have, it was fading. I left the school crying, and I couldn't stop. You know in those movies when heartbroken people, it's walking and crying? Well, that happened to me. I felt so lost in all aspects. And I was lost, actually. When I realized, I didn't know what I was. When I finally had a clear moment, I took a taxi to the bus station and a bus back to my aunt's house. It was nighttime when I got there. And she said, where have you been? How was the audition? I said, it was fine. They're going to call me with the results. I didn't tell her what happened. I didn't tell anyone. It was too painful to repeat what the teacher told me. I went back home and I told my mother I didn't make it, but I wanted to try it again next year. I had a plan. I will need a year to improve my skills, and I will audition for Mexican folk dance instead, since I was performing professionally, and the requirements are different. They don't look at the length of your legs to get into the school. But she said, no, you cannot take a year off. You need to choose something else for your first year of college. And I did. I chose sociology. I love humanities as much as I love arts. I went to school in the morning, and in the evening, a dance company in the city hired me to teach ballet to 5-year-olds. And also let me join the company. So I was taking jazz, contemporary dance, and ballet classes as part of the deal. I wasn't earning a lot of money. I was happy and finally forgetting about that time in my life. But 2 years later, we didn't have enough money for tuition. And I decided to come to America to earn money to pay for my degree. I asked my dad for help because he was living in DC at that time. And my boyfriend and I came together. We went to Oregon. And one time, we started to work, and I studied. I went to school and to improve my English skills, and don't take me wrong, I'm still working on that. And I wasn't earning enough money to pay my education back in Mexico, but I still had that on mind. Months later, we became pregnant, and life changed. My dreams were another dreams. Now we started a new journey, the journey of being parents. We were happy, and one day, one weekend, we decided to come to Sun Valley and visit some family. And I loved the place. We were young and unafraid of change. We went back home, gathered our belongings, and come back a month later to live here full time. Over the years, I became property manager here. And there is so much about my job that I absolutely love, but I was missing my artistic life. I have 2 sons by now, and I started bringing them to the Sun Valley Museum of Art, as my mother used to bring me to the Cultural Center in Oaxaca. And one time, they had a piñata making class, and I know we didn't want to miss that. We love to make piñatas at home. Piñatas are an essential part of a Mexican celebration. And the holidays were, coming. So we decided to make a Santa Claus to have a piñata for a, holiday celebration, Christmas celebration. I don't want to brag, but our piñata was coming very beautiful. And a member of the museum at that time noticed how good our piñata was looking and started asking me about my background. I told her my upbringings, and she said, would you be interested in teaching Mexican folk dance classes for us? And I said, sure. I'll give you my contact information, and you let me know when you're ready to put together a class. That evening, we went home very pleased with our family's creation, but also with the idea of me possibly teaching dance again. When she called me and asked me if I wanted to collaborate with the museum and teach the dance classes, I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know people would show up to the class, but it was very exciting to choose the music, the steps. 10 kids showed up to the first class, various ages. They were shy and also didn't know what to expect, but we were happy to be there and to learn about the Mexican culture. We decided to have a final performance, and we ordered costumes online for my students. When they showed up, all the kids were so excited, so much happiness in the room. They were moving their arms and their feet and looking themselves in the mirror like they were real dancers. The girls moving the flowy skirts all around, and the only boy in the class trying on his botines, which are the Mexican dance shoes for men. My sister sent me Mexican folk dance shoes and a skirt from Mexico. And seeing them, it was like seeing old friends, but they were new friends. And that smell of new was the smell of new dreams. For the final performance, I got to perform too. It was my first performance in 16 years. I couldn't believe it. Last fall, we were very honored when Las Cafeteras, an East LA band of, Son Jarocho band, came to Sun Valley to perform, and we were asked to dance with them in the big stage. So much joy and pride when I see my students dancing, a special connection to my hometown. And I see that in the faces of the parents who see their children carrying on these traditions. I think that when I see them dance, I don't want to stop that project. I don't want to stop dancing. And makes me love art and humanities more. It makes me think that I wasn't just a dreamer at that time when I thought, when a human being is exposed to art at a young age, life changes forever, because that happened to me. Makes me see others from the soul. Art makes us see the world differently, makes us use sounds, shapes, rhythm, and music as a language. But the most importantly, we use the language of love when we dance. Well, thank you, and I'm going to start, I'm going to show you a few items that I have from Oaxaca. Not all of these items were brought to me recently. Every time I have a family member or they send me a package from Mexico, they send me something. So I've been collecting all these, items from Oaxaca over time, and I'm going to start showing them to you. I want to make sure I didn't miss any of the pictures, the slides, and I'm going to start. These are traditional embroideries. All of these, mainly I have traditional embroideries, and most of them are from the Zapotecs. Like this one, it's made in Teotitlán del Valle, and are all these cotton threads and colorful. They have many different colors, but this is one of the, they love to use a lot of vibrant, colorful threads. And we have, I have to say, the dress I'm wearing tonight was made in Oaxaca, 100% by, indigenous people. That these threads are colorful, and these express their environment, they express their happiness, they express how good they feel to live in that area. And all of these embroideries are mainly unique. They're unique and special. I have this one here from the Sierras. In the Sierras like to use not as colorful outfits like in other regions of Oaxaca. This one, it's a traditional flower from the Isthmus region, which is the Tehuanas region. And those flowers are the flowers that they usually print in the dresses that they wear. So they're big and very colorful. And this one is again an Zapotec embroidery. And this is a basket that it's made in the Mixtec area from palms, a type of this desertic palm. And they weave it and make all these baskets. And in Mexico, in Oaxaca, we use them to put warm tortillas in here, so they don't, get cold. And we have these embroideries as well from the state of Oaxaca. These are, we use them to drink water. And, back in the old times when we didn't have a glass cup or, paper cup, we used to pour water in here and drink. And these are from a type of squash. So they let it dry, scoop all the seeds out, and clean it and start drinking from here. And then I have a blouse here that it is from Central Valley town. And I showed you before the tortilla. And something that is very special, and I don't know if you ever hear of it, but if not, you're gonna be very surprised. Those are tiny grasshoppers. And they collect them and cook them and eat them. I personally don't like them, so don't feel bad if you ever try them and don't like them, because I don't like them. But for example, my kids love them. So they have a very special flavor, they said, and I cannot tell you what is the flavor because I never try. I mean, I don't like them. I never try them. So they cook them and season them with garlic and salt and lime juice, and apparently they're so tasty. It's one of the most, traditional, I will say, insects to eat in Mexico, because I don't know if you know, but before the conquest, we didn't have a lot of protein sources. So they use small, crickets, grasshoppers, bugs as protein source. We have this is a type of bamboo, but we call it carrizo, and they're like, bamboo is thicker. This is very thin, and it used to be by the rivers. Lots of them, many of them. And they're super long. I mean, they could be, 10, 15 meters long, and they grew up, up high. And then when they dry, they make fences with these, and they also, this is a cup, right? These days we use it to drink mezcal, but I'm sure back in the old days they didn't use it for that purpose. Also, I have to say that near Mitla in Oaxaca, we have a place that it's called the Cave of Gila. And that place is also protected by UNESCO because it's one of the places where they think the domestication of the corn, squash, and beans started. So that area is also protected. And when I was in high school, in the art school, we went to these rupestris caves, and seeing all these, old men hunting, yes, it was very unique and amazing. And it's at the top of a hill. So I'm sure they did that to be protected from animals or, yeah. So, I'm ending my tonight presentation of Oaxaca, but I'll be dressing up and dancing a few songs, jarocho songs, and those songs are the songs that I'll be teaching in my fall workshop. So my fall workshop of dance, it's going from September to early November, and we will be participating also in the Dia de los Muertos celebrations with the San Bailio Museum of Art. And so, I'm very excited to show you all these, some jarocho songs. Thank you. I'll be back.
Thank you, Dirce.
Thank you.
As Dirce said, it's going to take her maybe 5 minutes to change her clothes. So I'm going to, in a minute, turn the lights on. You're welcome to get up and stretch a little bit, come look at these beautiful items at the table, but you won't want to miss her dancing. So if you think she's dressed up now, just wait.
She'll be taking some questions after.
And she'll be taking questions afterwards, yes. Thank you.
Of Veracruz, which I showed you, it was above the Papaloapan region. Now I could ask you questions too to see you put, if you put attention to my talk. So the Veracruz region, like I said, it has a port. So the Spaniards came through that region, right, to Mexico, and this outfit, it is very similar to one of the outfits in Spain. It's, in Santa Lucia or Andalusia, they have this type of outfit because that's where the Spaniards came first. So it was very popular. And this is, original traditional outfit from Veracruz, which are they also call it jarocho outfit.
Welcome your questions, and what we'll do is we'll start on one side and then we'll go to the other side. So does anyone on this side at this point have a question?
Thank you, Dirce, for such a beautiful performance and talk. I'm speechless. I am curious, I did not hear which region or district your hometown was. Which district?
Yes, yeah. So my hometown, it is located in the Central Valleys region. Centers. So yes, my hometown is in the Valley of Etla, in the central. Oh, so, well, these days it is San Pablo, so means Saint Paul, Huitzo, which it is, you can say, Huitzo. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can Google it. You'll see a lot of nice information on Google. Yeah, thank you. Next question.
Sorry, we forgot that she didn't have a microphone on to dance. Anyone over here have a question right now? Okay, anybody over here? Great.
Hi, I've been very curious to visit Oaxaca, and I saw the thing in the newspaper that you were going to be here, so I wanted to come down and see this. I get the sense that the traditions and the culinary and the culture is the people are so fiercely proud in Oaxaca of their traditions. And I'm just wondering, with the younger generations, with access to social media, is that changing or has that changed?
Good question, yes. So I have to say that it's not changing. Younger generations are very proud of our ethnic history and richness. So this is one of the positive aspects of the system uses and customs. That ethnic culture, traditions, history, educations go from one generation to another. So uses of customs, it helps the people to repeat over and over. And actually, the social media, it is very helpful because these days, the kids in the dance groups or festivals and parades, they post everything on social media, so it became even more popular in Mexico. So all the people in Mexico know about Oaxaca, and Oaxaca is trending right now. Oaxaca, it's a world, destination. So if we use that language, right, it's trending right now. Yes.
Any other questions on this side?
So I wasn't here when you came and to talk about when you came here. When did you come here?
Yes. May I get the microphone?
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Well, I moved to America when I was just 20, and I was living in Oregon for 2 years, and then we decided to visit my husband's family that lived here at that time, and we loved the place. But we moved here full time in 2007 to the Wood River Valley. Yeah.
Yes. So did you, as a young lady, start dancing in Oaxaca?
Yes, I started to dance at age 3. Yes, I started to dancing at age 3, and then 5 is when I joined the dance company, the group of children, and then I never stopped dancing, and I went from Mexican folk dance to ballet, and the last discipline of dance that I learned, or that I was very impressed about, it was contemporary dance. So it was the latest discipline of dance that I learned, and that's what I was very happy about it, and I wanted to learn that in college.
And then I actually have a question. Could you talk about the, regalia, dance dress? Is there symbolism in it. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Like I said, this is an outfit, traditional outfit from the state of Veracruz, which is north of Oaxaca, and it has a port in the Gulf of Mexico. So the people from Europe, especially Spain, because they were who got here and conquered us, they brought these outfits because this is a type of like outfit for flamenco people. So they brought that, but they didn't have all the fabrics and everything, right? So they the locals started to, oh, look, it looks fabulous. Let's make an outfit, right? But still, for example, these ribbon and lace are very traditional in Victorian ages and also colonial, right? So they just went with that flow of being very Catholic and going to church with the outfit, but also they were women stayed home. They didn't have education at that time, and they had to do their chores. So they were wearing white, but they had to wear a mandil, to avoid stains from making food and things splashing the dress. And then also a signal of richness, and it was like all these, it's supposed to be gold necklaces, right? All, they're like the opulent. They were they had money and they had gold, so they had to wear it. And the rebozo is a traditional, like a shawl that women use to cover themselves from in the morning or at evening when it's cooler. It's not as cold as here anyway. So yeah, that is, and also here, in Spain, the flamenco dancers use these as, just to get fresh air. And in Veracruz, it's also very humid and hot, so they also needed this. So that it's like, when you're dancing, you're like also cooling off yourself with the fan. Yes, and this is, it's called a mantilla, which is used in Catholic people when they go to church. So they took this off and put it on their heads. And they went into church with that, covering their faces. Yeah, so mainly that is the, what it is. But now these days it's only for dancers who use these, or unless you are in a event and they said, oh, everybody has to dress as a jarocho or jarocha. Proud of their outfits and traditions, so they try to not use it as much. It is very lovely.
And then is there anything special about the shoes and
these type of shoes, leather shoes with the heel that make sound. So that's why in son jarocho the sounds, the steps are very important because they have to go with the music. It was a little hard here because this is good. And if you see, sometimes I couldn't really hear the sound very well, but the shoes are important for that meaning because they create a nice sound when you are doing the son jarocho steps. Yes.
any questions bubble up? Sure.
When is the wet season? When is the dry season? What's the best time of year to visit Oaxaca?
Yes. So with climate change, it's getting even hotter and drier. So in the central valleys where, if you want to visit all these settlements, and if you want to visit Oaxaca City and all the towns around it, it's hot and dry year round. It cools off a little bit in the spring, early spring, but don't go in May April, May, because it's super hot and dry. July, it's still hot, but it's beautiful because the Guelaguetza celebrations, and you still be like, okay, it's hot, but I still have time to enjoy, right? And also like fall and winter get cooler, but in other regions it's different. Like for example, in the coastal region, it's hot year round, but also humid. You know, in the central valleys, it's like here, like dry. And there it's humid, so a lot of people do activities at night, just because the convenience of, you know, the breeze. In the northern area, it's humid and hot as well, but for sure the mountains year-round are cooler than other places in Oaxaca. Yeah, so unfortunately it's hot all the time. Yeah. Well, rain, I mean, we used to have rain in the spring and also in the fall, but now it's just it could rain or not rain in those seasons. Yeah, yeah. I mean, my parents-in-law, they were just saying this year they didn't get enough rain in the late spring or early summer. So yeah, it's just these days it's very unknown.
Great.
Are more people leaving Oaxaca because of these changes in the climate?
I have to say that a lot of people it's moving to Oaxaca. And the reason, like I said, it's because it's trending. All these traditions and the Guelaguetza and the festivities are world known. So a lot of, retired communities of Europeans and from America and Canada are moving to Oaxaca. There is a town in the Valley of Etla that it's called San Agustin Etla, and it's a village of North Americans living in there. Yes, they love in that specific town, they have mountains, it's higher, so the temperature is not as hot as in the lower valleys, and they have more rain, and they have museums, and they have Francisco Toledo that I was talking about, he built a cultural, so there's a lot of like workshops of, art workshops and things to do there, and they have a golf, and it's looking good.
Any more questions? Excellent.
So I wanted to thank you. Last fall, I saw you and your students perform with Las Cafeteras, and it was wonderful. Are you teaching every year or just in the fall with the center, or how much are you managing to teach now? Because I just think it's so wonderful you get to share your talents with the next generations.
We started in the spring, right, of 2021. Yes, and unfortunately, with the busy schedule of kids in the Wood River Valley, like everything goes in seasons, right? All the sports, everything. So we do a spring session of 8 weeks. And then we go for a break in the summer because nobody wants to do anything. They want to travel and enjoy the summer, which is, we know it's short. And then we do a fall session as well. And, I would like to do as much as possible. The Museum of Art has been really great on, supporting that activity. And the kids only pay $20 for 8 classes. And so, yeah. Hopefully, at one point, I don't have to stop because the challenge I'm facing right now, it's I have repeat students, but I also have new students every season. So I have to start from the basics again each season. So at one point, if I have, like, for example, and I started with, 10 students, and now we, like the last workshop, we had 16 or 17, right? 19. We had 19 students. And so this fall, I don't know how many students in total I will get, but I already have a new student. We know that it's a white student, which I'm very happy about, because my class is open to all ethnic groups. I want all to benefit from, the cultural, Mexican culture, right? So my class is open for everyone. And so hopefully at one time I don't have to stop and just go year round with the classes. Yeah, thank you.
Any last questions here?
I'm curious, are any of the mountain areas high enough to get snow in Oaxaca?
Okay. I don't know back in the old days, but as I was a child growing up in the state of Oaxaca and being involved in all these cultural activities and studying history and all of that, we never had snow. But in the past few years, in the higher, like the Zempoaltepetl is the biggest mountain in the Sierras, they got a little bit of snow. And again, it's the climate change, right? I mean, we're getting snow where we didn't, and rain when we didn't, so yeah.
We'll take one more question if there is one. If not, let's thank Dirce one more time for a wonderful, wonderful presentation.